I'm Dickie Berry, and I'm with the Livingston County History Club, and we're over at Miss Muriel Dickerson's to do a little talk with her today. This is the 25th day of October, 2023. And I'm going to start out by asking her a few questions, which I'm pretty sure she's already answered today. We've been talking, but Muriel, you were born
November the 26th, 1920.
1920 at
About 6 miles from here down to Lowell Road, Lowell Highway.
6 miles from here.
It might not be that far.
And you walked that many times, I guess.
Oh, I've walked all over. I've walked from Salem to Pleasant Grove to Blooming Rose School and Pleasant Grove.
You walked all over.
Yeah, and Lickskillet. I can't forget that.
You don't forget Lickskillet.
That's the first school I ever went to.
Okay, your mom and daddy, who were they?
My dad was Clarence Willbanks, and my mother was Nellie Dammer Willbanks.
And counting you, they had how many children?
9.
9.
I was the oldest.
Still are, right?
All my siblings are gone, but my sister, one sister, and she was born in 42. She's the same age Bonnie. She lives in Marion, Illinois.
Yeah. Bonnie, and she's the same age. I was born in 42.
Oh,
well.
Yeah.
So, schools. What's the schools you went to?
The first school I went to was Lickskillet. I think it was really Barnett, but they called her Barnett. But they called it Lickskillet. That's what it went by. That's all I ever knew. And then my second school I went to was Blooming Rose, and that was over in Crittenden County, down close between Lowell and remember that too, all back in that road. You may know what that.
Dignity, back at
Marvin Singleton, close to where Marvin Singleton's home place was.
Okay.
And then I went to Pleasant Grove. Then I went back to Lickskillet. That's where I graduated from the 7th and 8th grade.
Do you remember any of your teachers?
Oh, I remember every one of them.
Tell me.
Mr. Harley Sunderland was my first teacher. Then I moved and went to Blooming Rose, and Miss Thelma, she was a Tolly. And she taught one school to her there for, I don't know, 5 years, I guess. Then I came to Pleasant Grove, and Miss Alice Brookshire, which is Mr. Harley Sunderland's wife now, or was then, later on in her later years. But she wasn't married at that time. Miss Alice wasn't. She was Miss Alice Brookshire from Marion. And she boarded, I think, with some Mr. Green or somebody. But anyway, later years, I come back to Lickskillet, and Miss Thelma had married Pete Tyner from Lowell, and she was really my last teacher that I ever had. But I went to school to Mr. Poland. He was a real good teacher. He taught Blooming Rose, and then he married Miss Alice.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that for years. And Lisa, my youngest daughter, was going to school in Hampton, and she kept talking about this teacher would go to sleep. And I kept wondering who in the world would she have was going to sleep. So I went out there one day, and I went in, and there sat Miss Alice. I said, "Well, Miss Alice?" And she looked, and she remembered me. And she said, "Well, Merle, what a strange thing." I said, "Lisa's been telling me about you, but I didn't tell her about her going to sleep." I said, "Lisa's been telling me about her teacher, and I couldn't imagine who it was." So we had a nice talk. But that was my schooling. Now, I went to high school.
Well, you got enough teaching
But
those people. You didn't need high school.
I had about as good an education as some of them was going to high school back at that time.
Yeah.
Now, it's different now. I don't understand what these young people now are saying when they're talking about their college and going to school. It's just so different. I don't know anything about none of that.
Yeah, it's got by us, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
Okay, tell me a little bit about churches you went to.
I never went to any church very much but Old Salem. That was been my home church. I started going there in 1937. So we got married, September the 18th, 1937. And Claude was already a member there, and in fact, Missy was deep. And then I never went to any other church. I never belonged to any other church. I went to church. It was a different church. But now, when I was a child, we would go to church. I remember one time they had a brush arbor. Now, a lot of people don't know what a brush arbor church is, but they had this brush, felt like a building outside, and had brush all over it. And they had it was down close to Barnes Chapel, somewhere. I couldn't tell you exactly. And then they used to have one down here on the Lola Highway, there where Alvin Gill, you know where Alvin Gill is?
Yeah.
Had brush arbor meeting right there. And they also had a barbecue from when they had this meeting. Had a barbecue, and I think Mr. Dan Farley was the one that sponsored all that.
Yeah.
It was late.
Yeah.
It was we went down there to that church. So, but as far as going, now I went. They did have after I married, and during the years I think Bonnie maybe Van was little. They had a preacher from Marion. It was our associational pastor of our church. But we had a meeting over at Mulligan Schoolhouse. They had turned it into church. Like how those kids all down the mines.
Mm-hmm.
And Old Salem sponsored that. It was a branch off of Old Salem. And we went down there. I didn't belong there, but I belonged to Old Salem. But we went down to that church. Elois Ablett was the teacher. Elois had, she married James Ablett. And they had a piano there in that school. And she would play the piano. And I don't think these kids could even remember it, probably going to the church down there. But we did. And my mom and dad had moved down there close to us. And they went down there. And in fact, man, I really think that's where my dad really was saved. Because he had never was affiliated with the church. You know, I got a little something to tell you funny about Mama though. My grandfather, Darwin, he was the Church of Christ, not Christian church. They called it Christian church. And it's Liberty Grove. You know where Liberty Grove is out this road?
Yep.
Used to be a church, I think they turned it into a hunting club, which I thought was awful. But they went to church there all the time. And my mom, she said, they just walked up and gave the preacher their hand, told him to say it. She said, of course, Ruth and Lucy, they were older than my mother. There's Ruth and Lucy and Nellie, that's my mom, and Clara and Grace and Eddie. Then they had two brothers, Mary and Clyde, the two youngest. But Mama said everything Ruth and Lucy did, she thought she was doing too. So she said, they went up and gave the preacher their hand, they were saved that night. So she thought, well, now if Ruth and Lucy saved, I am too. So she said, I went up, told the preacher I was saved. She said, they had baptized him. Now, Mama told me this. She said, Ruth and Lucy got baptized, and I did too. She said, you know what? She said, I went in there a dry sinner and come up with wet one. Said I wasn't no more saved than nothing. So
Oh, man.
I thought it was something called Ruth and Lucy did. I had to do it too. But later on, Mama was saved later on. I remember one time, I was always a tomboy. I ran after my dad all the time. He had two big white horses. And he'd bring his horses in and he'd feed them out in the front yard. Back in that time, we lived way out in the country. And he'd feed his horses in the back of the wagon while he had his dinner before he had to go back to field work. And of course, I wanted to be in the middle of everything. And he told me, he said he had some little paddles fixed. And he'd kill horse flies on his horses that got on him. He said, now don't you dare touch that horse. Well, he just told me to go hit it. Well, he did. That horse kicked me up over half across the yard. And I remembered, reading, I said my mother was saved later. I know she was, because I remember her praying for me after that horse had kicked me. If she was praying that the Lord would not let me be hurt. But that's the first time I can remember of hearing prayer. I do remember that.
How do you know how old you were?
Oh, I guess I was about 5 years old. Elva, I was born in 1920, in November. Then my sister Elva was born December the 4th of 1922. So that much different. And Eileen I think she was just a tiny baby when I got kicked. She was born in 25. which was the same difference, but November, December, January. So I threw her over in another year instead.
You've been a member down there. You're, without saying, you're the oldest living member down there.
Oh yes, I think I'm the oldest in Livingston County.
Yeah, probably so.
I don't know if anybody else any older.
Well, tell us a little bit about your work record down at the court, the people at the courthouse.
Oh, that's
You married in 37.
I married in 37, September the 18th, and of course I went to work right then. But now we worked at home then. We didn't work in Smithman. We didn't move into Smithman until about I don't know 49. I know 49. We moved down on Highway 60 because at that time they thought they were going to have us to move to Smithman, and we tried to find a house down there, but we didn't find one, and so they let us go ahead and have the office, but we lived at Barnum, and we drove. It was 11 miles from my driveway to the front of the courthouse. And it's 6 miles from my house to here. So that's my radius to live. And that's where my home place is over. But we worked down there at Smithton. I love the people. Everybody it was just wonderful. And Claude was elected in 34. First term, and then he was running for second term when we married in 37, and he was held office till 1974. Was it, Bob?
Yeah, 74. Yeah,
Yes,
that's right. Right here.
Was it 74?
Yes.
When he retired, but he went ahead and worked a little over to he wouldn't leave them without anybody. He stayed in there until Miss Etta Combs, she ran for the office, and she was elected, and but I had such a good life with all the people around the courthouse. Gabe and Grace and Geneva, they was the main ones in that office.
Geneva Woodson.
Yes, Geneva Woodson. And then Miss Reba Smith. And now, in 1942, or 43, Orman Stico had circuit court clerk's office. Anybody talking about that?
I remember him, but I don't remember anything about him.
Well, he was there for Miss Reba.
Yeah.
But I didn't know much. I didn't know as much about that end of the courthouse as I did on over when we worked. We had to work. We didn't have a playhouse. We had a job to get and had to get it done at a certain time. Get around.
So you had Gabe and Grace in the county court clerk office.
Oh yeah, I remember that one way on.
And then you had Miss Reba in the
circuit clerk. Ralph Smith was sheriff. We lost our jail though.
Yeah, and
that's the first time I was ever in jail. That when they built they had a jailhouse there, and they built it. You remember talking about the new jailhouse they built? And Mr. Frazier was up on stairs over it, had his office.
Had his office up there, didn't he?
Yes, had them steps up there. And when they got the new jail opened, got it all done, they come in, told us all, went out, went in jail, went around inspecting jail. That's the only time I was ever in jail. We all laughed about that. It was all the courthouse gang was in jail.
You're right. Ralph was sheriff, and then he'd be judge. You would be sheriff, and then they just traded back and forth.
There was Truman Baxter. He worked there, and Rod Driscoll. But Mr. Willis Champion, I remember him real well. He'd come to the courthouse every day, and he'd get up on one of them desks, and he could wrap his legs. He said, "He could wrap them feet around each other." I don't know how he did it, but he could do it. He was always, and this is funny. It's not really funny either, but I had asthma real bad back then, and he told me one day, he said, "I'll tell you what, I'll help you out if you do it." And I said, "Well, tell me right now." He said, "Get you some Salem cigarettes. And when you feel smothered, smoke you one of them." Well, I never smoked a cigarette in my life. I thought, well, it'd probably be worth it. So I got them, and I smoked me one once in a while, and I really got to liking it. So I was smoking, I liked it. And I thought, well, now this is just for the birds. And I said, I was just sitting there one day, and I was going to get me a cigarette. Didn't want nobody to know it. especially straight kids might give us nobody else. So I had a big battle on at my other house. Fuck the great. They had laid upon a banner. I walked up and picked it up. I looked at it and I said, I said, Lord, I'll never smoke another one of these as long as the day I live. And I have never lit another one since. That's been over 60 years ago.
Did you throw them in the fire?
I don't tell him I smoked them. I don't know. He smoked pot most of the time. But I've never lit another one that go to this, and I will never.
Well, I got something here, a request from Connie.
Oh,
You know what that is,
I
don't you?
guess.
She wants you to do the weenie song for her.
And that other song was
Oscar
Lisa?
Oscar Mayer.
Oh yeah, that was from our
Is that-
song.
Is that the one?
But the one Connie wants is, I know a weenie man, he owns a weenie stand. He feeds me everything from hot dogs someday I'll be his wife, eat weenies all my life. Hot dog, I love that weenie land.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not married you.
Now, what about
And the
Oscar
other one
Mayer? Can
was-
you do Oscar Mayer?
See,
My baloney.
my baloney has the first name, it's Oscar. My baloney has the second name, it's Mayer. I eat bologna every day. It's why you hear me say, Oscar Mayer has a way with BOLOGNA.
So, well, I tell you what, we've been talking here this morning. You've been telling stories before we got Roger all set up here. Just tell us some stories about your life and things you told me one time that you could remember back, excuse me, 100 years.
I can. I really can remember when I was 2 years old. One thing I remember. My grandfather comes to my mom's house, and he was riding his old mare, old Molly, I think he called her, and he wanted me to go home with him. And I think it's when my sister was born. I'm not sure. Back then there wasn't any hospitals, and all babies were born at home. But I think that's what it was. So he wanted to take me home with him. I guess I was always kind of special because that's the one who wanted me shaving when I was a kid. But anyway, he wrapped me in a blanket and took me home with him on his old mare. And I rode in his arms. Now, that was 2 years old. But then I remember so much things back when I was a child that it wouldn't be interesting to anybody else, I don't guess. But I guess I loved old people. I just loved them. And I would stay with my grandmother a lot. And she was sick. In fact, I think she might have had TB, but anyway, I never did get it. And she had about 75 hens, 2 milk cows, and I had to do I did all the work. I think I was probably about maybe 12, between 12 and 14 years old. I milked those 2 cows, and I would shell corn and feed about 75 hens, gather in the eggs. I did the cooking. I was a pretty good cook, I guess. Never did make nobody sick. They always encouraged me though, and I would have to walk to the mailbox about quarter of a mile, I guess. It might have been a little bit further. But anyway, the mail car didn't pass their house, and there was an old family lived up there, Mr. Lonzo Watson and Miss Maud, and they had a daughter. Her name was Ruth, and she had been married till she was probably close to 30 years old. But anyway, they would watch for me. I'd have to go to the mailbox, walk to the mailbox, get their mail. And if the mail car hadn't passed, they'd holler at me, say, come down here to the house. Stay with us till the mail car gets there. We've got a good cherry pie made. And I'd go down and they'd get me a piece of cherry pie. And I'd sit there and eat it. And then they taught me to card cotton. Now, not you might not even know what carbon cotton is. I guess you do. But they raised their own cotton. They picked the cotton seed out, and they had these bats, and they had a handle, kind of like a horse cart comb. You've seen that, haven't you? Only it's flat, and they'd put this cotton across there where they'd get the seed out of it. Then they'd take one, run it back and forth, back. It might come out of the cotton bat about that long, about that wide, and it's that deep too. And they'd stack them in a chair, a straight chair like that little chair over yonder. They'd have, it was 3 or 4. Then they'd go the other way, back. And it was tempting. I would just love to settle on it, but I never did. But they would carve that cotton to go on make their quilts. Then they'd place it on. They showed me how they did that. They'd put their lining down in their frames hanging from the ceiling. They'd place that cotton all over that lining. Then they'd put their quilt top, which they pieced it by hand. Like I did it too a lot. And lay it on there. Then they'd pin it so it wouldn't slip. And they'd roll the frames up so they'd be in the middle. They usually started in the middle of the frame of the quilt if they could, and then go the other side. And so they taught me how to do that and make crochet. Well, it was knit. They made me some wooden needles, about 14 inches long, I guess. And we could knit. They call them rag rugs. They'd knit them. You could knit the long ones or a round one. I learned to do that, but I think good enough like that to work with my hands. It won't let me do it. But now that people like that taught me a lot, and I never forgot it. I just love the old people. And another thing my dad did, he'd tell me and my little sister, we was big enough to get out and walk. I guess I was about between 4 and 5 years old. She is between 2 and 3. He'd say, now you all take your little buckets, go up there and pick up a bucket full of those acorns and throw it over there in them hollers. And that was really our working at that time, teaching us how to work. And the first job I ever had, you all laugh about this now. Mr. Charlie Watson had a little grocery store out at this road down here. You know where the Amish live? Mm-hmm. Well, right on that corner before you turn to go down, that's where the store was. And he got me or his wife did, to clean out their chicken house. She was a big heavy woman. She couldn't do it. It wasn't bad. It was just take a broom, sweep out, and shovel out, and carry it out, put it out. Fertilize. So one day you had to take the chickens off. The people had brought in there. See, they buy chickens and eggs back then. You could take chickens and eggs to the store and sell them. So had the producers coming in to get the chicken, and they killed a hen. Somehow, no, they killed his hen. He said, by the way, that's why I said byword, said, take this to the house. The one that they killed. I took it to our house. so
He didn't say which house.
So when he went to eat supper that night, he said, by the way, I ate her horse's chicken. She said, I didn't never see one.
Okay. We want to know a little bit about your hobbies you did. If you had time for any hobbies.
Well, I had to make time. That time, back in my day, you didn't have time. You just make time. There's things you had to do. If you hadn't, you had to work for it. I remember the days when a nickel was worth more than a quarter right now. Absolutely. You could, and I remember when gas was 15 cents a gallon. But you had to go up that old pipe and wind it up and then go the other way. Or that old, I think it's 1 secret row was.
Yeah. Glass pump.
Yeah.
Fill them up.
See how many gallons you had per, and it was 15 cents a gallon. And we had, when you was wanting to know what we did, well, we raised most everything we had to eat. My dad was a sharecropper. We didn't own a home, but one time we had owned a place to be fine, sold it because we moved around and made better doing the work we did. And we would raise one patch of corn was called hickory cane. And that's what we made for our hobby. We had make our own farm. We raised the good corn that could take to the grist mill, and I don't know how often can't remember how often we had to do this, but when the meal would go to getting low in the meal barrel, we'd have to go to the crib, shuck out the corn. We'd get that corn ready at night. We'd sit in the fireplace. We'd have no heat at the fireplace, and we'd shell the corn. And I can remember us having a wash tub full of corn. And the next day after we get that done, Dad would put the corn out of a big sack, and I, believe it or not, he'd put me on a horse, and I'd take that corn to that store over there. I was talking about that gas station, and get that meal ground. And we get meal, get it ground. We didn't have to buy that. We had to buy flour, and it was 49 cents for 25 pound bag. We'd buy flour, and a quarter's worth of sugar was bigger than 10 pounds now. We did sugar, flour, soda, salt, and sometimes she might have baking powder, but if she went out of that, it was okay because we could use the soda. And coffee. We always had to buy coffee. We had to have our coffee. And it was 3 pounds in a paper bag. You had to grind it with some coffee beans. And she'd buy 3 cans of, it was called, we wouldn't sell them, it was back for a quarter. But it was hard to get a quarter. My dad offered our lumber for 75 cents an hour. Sawmill. So, and then at Marion one time, it was, I can't remember, I guess it was about 1930, I think, they come out with a program over in Crittenden County. We was living in Crittenden at that time, that's just across the line out here. And they furnished garden seed and seed potatoes for people. And that was the first time I remembered anything ever being, give anything that you'd have to pay for. And we got our potato seed and all of our garden seed, and that way we didn't have to worry about having any money to pay for that. And he got a job on the WPA, and he rode his horse out this road. That's the first job he ever had that I ever knew that paid by check, paid in check. So it was, we raised everything. We raised cane.
Bet you did too.
We raised cane and made our own molasses.
What did he do at WPA? Was that when they built the schoolhouse?
No, there was doing kind of like road work.
Yeah.
Over near Tulu, where he was working it. He had to ride his horse. And I remember Mama, we didn't have a lot, but didn't nobody else, but we thought we were rich. Everybody was the same boat we was in. And I remember her making fried pies out of persimmons. And that was good. I wish I had one of them. She'd take the seed out of those persimmons and make fried pies from them. You'd be surprised. They were so good. Of course, we had dried our apples. We had dried apples, canned berries, blackberries, and we had plums too. And we always raised a garden, and we had dried beans, and we planted beans in the cornfield. This is funny. It was funny to me. My grandma, they always had big pumpkin patch in the cornfield. And my grandfather got his corn about almost ready to lay by, and he wanted us to plant pumpkins, me and my sister. My grandma fixed us some pockets, and she filled them full of pumpkin seed. Well, we just planted pumpkins, and we planted pumpkin seed. We got tired. I don't know if you ever see a crawdad. You ever seen a little crawdad horse comes up and goes up like a. We got tired of planting pumpkin seed. We put them hands full up down in that. Lord knows they all come out. My grandmother said, "Well, I wondered what happened to all your pumpkin seed." We just got tired. We planted them in the crawdad hole.
Pumpkins everywhere, wasn't it?
We raised our own popcorn, and I can tell you thing about popcorn. If you want to raise your own popcorn, plant it in the middle of your cornfield. If you have a big cornfield with big corn in, plant your popcorn right in the middle. It will not mix. I know, but I've seen it now.
Yeah.
He raised his own popcorn. We had popcorn and hickory nuts went out, and we had walnuts. We didn't have pecan trees, but we always picked up all of those. We'd have two big barrels. Had hickory nuts in one and walnuts in the other. And we had to keep them covered up because the squirrels would carry them off.
Yeah.
But anyway, we had popcorn. Big fireplace. Had a big fireplace, and we tie a string in the middle of that corn. One string and hang it across it, and he had to take a wire popper. Did you ever see a wire popcorn popper?
Mhm.
There's kind of like a bread pan, but had a lid on top, and he'd put shells and pop it in the fireplace. That was the best popcorn I ever. That was every night thing. Always had popping some popcorn. Well, all of us did. We ate popcorn. I guess that's the reason we're healthy. We eat walnuts, hickory nuts, popcorn, and lots of milk, butter, and vegetables. And I learned to bake. I bake a cake every little bit. I think I can still bake it the same recipe I had at that time. It was just up here.
What kind of cake was it?
It was just plain old yellow.
Yellow cake?
And I made my own icing for it. And my grandpa and my uncle both worked at Klondike Mines. And I had to fix lunches for them. And my great uncle stayed at my grandpa's house like I did. We've done the work. And I'd make a cake for the luncheon. But I got up in the morning. I was 14 years old. I'd get up in the morning and I'd build a foreign cook stove with a little cast iron stove. Put the bread in after on the side. And I cooked breakfast for my grandfather, my grandmother, my uncle, my great uncle. I fixed 2 lunch buckets. Then I had to go after I got them all gone, I go to the barn and milk 2 cows, shell enough corn for 75 hens, and I carried that all to the house. Now, and you wonder why I'm living today? That's why. I worked hard. And I enjoyed it. I'd do it again. I would love it back for it. Back if I could do it again.
You sure didn't have any time for hobbies, did you?
No. I didn't have hard time getting my lessons.
Oh,
But I enjoyed, and like I said, I loved old people. I always did all my whole life. I loved those old people. It was just wonderful. I don't know whether I told you what you asked or not.
You what?
I don't know whether I answered what you told me.
Yes, you have. And you've answered. We only want to know what do you think? How you live such a long, good life, and I think you just told us that.
Well, I think it's because that I love life. I can just. There's nobody else like me, I know. But I can just go out here on this porch and sit out there and look up at the sky, and I just get such a blessing because I realize up there, no man can do that. No woman can turn them pretty clouds into what they are. And I don't know, I love nature. Just plain old nature. In our school days, we didn't have gym sets and all that stuff, and we didn't have field. Our field day was going out and hunt for wild grapes. Take us out in the woods and hunt for wild grapes. And that was the, see, but we just lived on, that's the way we lived. We just didn't have nothing else unless we got family, got work for it. And look, people were so good. Mr. George Barnes, we had across his orchard, go to school. And he told us, he said, now don't y'all knock off my apples off some of these trees because they're not ready to eat. But these right here, y'all get all you want. We'd always get us some apples when we went to school. And Mr. Frank Singleton was the same way. It was Marvin's dad when we went to Blooming Rose. He had orchard just close to the road. But he didn't want us going over in his orchard, but we'd get them off that one tree. Me and Marvin laughed about that last time Marvin was here, talking about us, how and he said one day I remember going to the house and said Mother was doing laundry. Of course, we had to do it on the washboard back then. Said she didn't have time to cook. Said, I run in that garden, got me a big ripe tomato and a handful of salt. Said, I swallowed it almost whole. Got back to school. He said, I never got sick in my life. I said, I just really got sick. But that's why we had to take our lunches to school. Everybody took the same thing just about. Boiled eggs, boiled corn in the summertime, and potato cakes. Did you ever eat one?
Oh yeah.
And so one time when I was going to Livingston, Ruth Radcliffe, or her name, she, I don't know what she was like when she died. Anyway, she had never had a potato cake, and she saw me having those potato cakes, and she wanted to trade me her peanut butter and cracker sandwich for my potato cake. Well, I traded with her.
Yeah.
So we would, a lot of times as kids would spread our lunch on. You know, we'd take tablet paper, put it on the ground, put her at lunch, and like we were having a good homecoming dinner on the ground.
Well, looks like you worked really hard and had a lot of fun too.
Oh yeah, we worked hard, and these kids, my kids couldn't have done it. They couldn't have held up to do what I had to do.
No.
They couldn't milk for cows and feed chickens, go to school and all that. They couldn't do it.
Well, you didn't want them to, did you?
No, that was my fault. Wasn't it?
You didn't want them to.
No, I didn't want them to have to. But that was the way of life in my time. That was everybody. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just us. It was all. Do you remember Virginia? Did you knew Steve Sills' wife?
Yes.
Now, I went to school with her sisters
Very
and a
glad.
brother. And that was the workingest bunch of kids I ever saw in my life.
They were Croft.
Yeah, and there was 13 kids. Yeah, there was Stanley, Doug, Jay, and Cecil, Davis, and Willard was the boys. There's Pauline, Corrine, Edna, Virginia, Mary Catherine, Pauline, Corrine, Edna, Virginia, Wilma Jean, Mary Catherine. And I talked to Mary, Seals.
Uh-huh.
I talked to her just a little while before she died. I didn't even know she was sick. And she told me there was another little girl. Said there were 7 little girls.
Really?
And 6 boys of their family. And I knew them every one, but that one had passed away. I guess she was a baby.
Well, Charlie was your brother, wasn't he?
Charles Willbanks?
Yes.
Yeah, he was my brother.
Okay,
I
now-
had 3 brothers.
Okay, and who were your 3 brothers?
Charles and William Arthur, we called him Billy,
Billy,
and Donnie.
Donnie. Yeah.
My sister was Elva, Eileen, Theodore, Armlene, one.
Now, did one marry a butler?
Theodore.
Yeah.
She married Doc
That's
Butcher.
right. That's right.
And Elva married Smith first, then she married Tabor, and she married Dunn. That was all hers. And Eileen married Tabor. He died young. Tarnley married Poindexter, Heath. And Wanda married Earl Miller. And now Wanda's the one that's living in Illinois.
Yeah.
And she's 3 weeks a day younger than Barney. No. Her aunt's, you know anybody?
When Miss Claude died?
Was it 90?
99.
99. And that morning,
28.
he had been well. Of course, he wasn't down bed fight, stuff like that. But that morning, I'd always get up first and get everything going and do what I had to do. So I got him, I always made coffee first thing. I'd get my coffee on, and then I'd do other things, and I'd just in the bathroom washing my face and hands, and he'd come into the bathroom door dressed. What if I could have looked back then like I do now, I would have knew something wrong, because he never did that. But he came to the door. I said, "What are you doing up?" He said, "Well, I just thought I'd get up." So I said, "Well, I'll just go on." I said, "I'll go in there and I'll get your breakfast ready. What do you like to eat?" I got his breakfast ready, put it on the end of the table. I said, "Now, while you're eating, I'm going to go feed that cat, because they're going to scratch my door. I don't want to scratch them, screen door." Well, I did. I thought, well, while he's getting his breakfast, I'm going to get that. He did come a frost, and I had a morning glory vine out there, and it was turned black. And I thought, I'd get that down. And when I set my ladder up and I started stepping, I heard him fall. I come in here and fell right there. And Dr. Gavin said, when he come guy and took him to the hospital, and they asked me if I wanted to do that shocking. I said, no. I said, we've done got that fixed, neither one of us, one thing. And so he said, what wouldn't done any good? He said he was gone before he hit the floor. That was the end of his life right there.
He was a good one.
He
I
was-
sure stole a lot of it.
And he was going to do his job right and wouldn't do it. That job had to be done. A lot of people thought we had a play job, but it wasn't. It was hard.
All those people down at the courthouse were good to me back then. That's
Oh,
just a
yeah.
good old thing running in down there.
Yeah.
And, but we used to roller skate through that courthouse. You remember that?
Oh, yeah. I know. Yeah. And I remember that Mr. Dickerson spitting. That spit to himself in that corner when you're fixing to go in Miss Rivas.
Yeah.
You know, there's a corner right there from the steps and all that. Had called the spit things, and the big old thing. If people come in there, they'd spit in that thing, chewing tobacco. And Raymond Dickerson was one of them. And I could just see, that fur hat he wore. You remember that black
Yeah.
sun on top of his head?
Yeah.
And he'd stop spitting that thing every time. We'd go into Miss Reba's office.
Yeah.
Oh,
There was a crew down there.
yeah, we had. It was, it's a pleasure. It wasn't hard. It was hard work, but it's a pleasure to work with people like that.
Right.
Everybody helped each other. If they needed help, they'd talk about what they was doing, help somebody else.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I don't know about everybody else, but I could sit here all day and listen to you tell these stories.
Well,
And I'm coming back.
we couldn't get in.
Huh?
We wouldn't get in.
That'd be all right too. That'd be all right too. But we really appreciate you taking your time, inviting us in,
Well,
us,
I
and doing this.
thank you all for coming. I'll have cluttered away when I didn't have no business. But I really love.
This will from now on. We'll always
We just
have this.
had a good time, haven't we?
Sure. Always been my buddy.
That's my little Dickie. I'm just still, Dickie, I can still see you just as plain as it was yesterday. Run up that sidewalk just as hard as you could go and take that old book satchel off, hang it upon Gabe's desk, grab them old waste paper cans and start with the barrel. Just making money, wasn't you?
Oh, I was making big money.
Making you some money.
Gabe was always good to me.
Oh, I know. That's good to everybody.
He sure was.